for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Caitlin Augustin. I'm the Vice President of Product and Programs at Datakind. Datakind, we're a global nonprofit focused on using data science and machine learning to really tackle the world's toughest challenges. We do that through partnership with social impact organizations. So we work in collaboration with individuals and organizations who are really on the front lines of providing direct services to communities. And we work to identify where data and technology can be a part of their solution building. So, for example, here in Orlando, we've been working for a number of years in collaboration with the Evictions and Foreclosures Working Group. And that organization is doing amazing work keeping individuals in their homes. It's a collection of about 50 or so organizations across the community. And they had a question of, where are people losing their homes most frequently, and what could they do to be proactive about that? So we built an analytics tool to identify where evictions and foreclosures were happening most at a neighborhood level, so down to that census tract where you could actually go and then run a door knocking campaign to enroll individuals in the emergency rental assistance program during COVID. So that's just an example of how we work. We work to build these partnerships and to make solutions that are feasible for social impact organizations to use and to take forward.
How is data science and AI being utilized to improve the capabilities and reach of social impact organizations, especially in the Central Florida community?
Yeah, so, data science, machine learning, AI, it's one tool in a toolbox. So we often think when we're going forward to solving a problem, it's like, what is the problem that you can apply data and technology to? You don't want to start with the data saying, oh, I have all of these donor records. I have this knowledge of where each individual I might provide service to lives. I want to start with the questions. And sometimes the questions don't need data and technology to solve them. I actually want to say that up front. One of the things we do quite often is we work in the frontline health space. One of the biggest things you can do in frontline health is pay your community health workers. Typically a volunteer position. If you paid your health workers, you would solve many of the challenges facing last mile healthcare. So data and technology can't solve every problem. But what it can do is it can make operations more efficient. It can make our ability to reach more individuals with the same set of resources possible. It can help us uncover patterns and increase our understanding of the communities that we are serving. Here in Central Florida, we're doing a number of projects. Datakind's been working in this community for a little over 3 years. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that we've recently partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank on a question of how to help them identify communities of high need for nutrition benefits access, but who are not connected to or enrolled in the Second Harvest food program. Either they don't have the information because they lack access to broadband or other connective services, or they lack the ability to take the time to do an enrollment process, or just a lack of understanding. So often the services that we offer to individuals put the burden on an individual to identify the service, to put together all their materials for enrollment, and to actually get that access. And Second Harvest, working with Datakind, wants to flip that script and say, we know where individuals who could most benefit from our services are. Let's go get them. Let's help them enroll in our services so that we can provide nutrition benefits to more individuals.
With your experience as a research scientist and professor, what drew you to Datakind? And how does your background in education contribute to your current role?
Sure. So a little bit about me. I know I talked quite a bit about Datakind. So my background, I've been at Datakind for about 6 years, and before that I worked as a research scientist at an ed tech company. Before that I was a professor at NYU teaching engineering. Before that I did an undergrad and PhD in engineering through the University of Miami. So have had a long data-focused career. And at each of those touch points, I saw the power of data to help inform community action. So as a researcher, understanding that access to information can give communities power. Working in ed tech, understanding that education can be delivered effectively through almost any medium if we focus on that. So I worked quite a bit on delivering education through mobile phones. So how do you make that type of learning and type of information accessible to any individual, regardless of where they are or what technology medium they have? I had a chance to volunteer with Datakind. One of Datakind's volunteer models is actually to hold social impact hackathons. They call them data dive events. And so I had a chance to volunteer while I was working in the corporate world, and really fell in love with the ambition of this organization to take data and technology and to take the services that were so often only provided in a corporate space and bring them to nonprofits. And what it really led me to the career I have now, where I feel like every day I inform my work from the body of knowledge I've brought in. So what is the best in-class work from research? What is best in class? What are the best things that we can pull from the corporate space and bring them to social impact so that we are truly delivering these commercial competitive softwares, products, offerings to enable social impact organizations to do the best work possible.
You're the organizer of the Orlando Lady Developers Meetup. How does this community connect with Datakind's initiatives?
It's a great question. So Orlando Lady Devs, we're actually part of the Greater Orlando Devs Network, and I also sit on the executive board of ODevs. And ODevs is the largest community meetup for technology developers here in Central Florida. We have about 6,000 members enrolled in our meetup, and we're actually holding an event every month that's pulling about 200 or so members of the community together. And what ODevs has and Lady Devs have as their mission are to really make data, technology, software, skills, and opportunities available across Central Florida. So we see our major offering to the community to really be this pipeline of how do you build a network? How do you connect individuals? How do you provide opportunity? And how do you steward those relationships, those skills toward the benefit of Central Florida? We have a rapidly growing technology and software community here. We're very connected to the Orlando Economic Partnership, the Orlando Tech Community, and those types of events. How do we use our convening and nonprofit power to galvanize those connection points and to bring a community together? And ODevs itself is also very focused on what it means to foster a community and to give back. ODevs, we host not only Lady Devs, but we also host the Orlando Innovation League and the Open Orlando, which is an organization focused on using open data. And all of these touch points really come together in close collaboration with Datakind. So Datakind, we look to support the local meetup communities and to bring them together with our mission to in these volunteer events that we run, in ensuring that community voice and community context is brought together with the solutions that we build.
Datakind has been at the forefront of the Data for Good movement for a decade. What are some trends or challenges you see on the horizon, and how is Datakind preparing to meet them?
That's a great question. So I would say first, it's the explosion of information and data. I read something recently that said like 90% of the data in the world, like the digital data, was created in the past 2 years. So just the exponential growth of information, it's going to be impossible for any one person, for any current techniques to harness that. And so as a challenge in an opportunity space, just the information and the accessibility of digital information is such a huge space for organizations like Datakind and organizations who want to use that data to drive decision making. In terms of the technology themselves, I mean, I think probably everyone's heard of ChatGPT at this point, right? Past 6 months have really revolutionized the AI space. Large language models becoming accessible, not just to developers, but to you or I. We can go and we can ask ChatGPT to give us a recipe for what to make for dinner, or to help us as a nonprofit write our first draft of our grant. Making sure that those tools are used in not only an ethical way, but an equitable way. This idea of what is equitable access to data and technology is a challenge that we are really, I would say, wrestling with and wanting to ensure that equitable and ethical access to tools and opportunity. The other thing I would say is just there's been a real rise of like no code and low code options, ChatGPT being one of them, just an easy user interface on the GPT-4 algorithms, and making sure that communities understand that there are these tools out there that don't require a data science degree, don't require a math degree, that you can do quite a lot of self-service just with your computer and a very little amount of programming power. And I think that really has democratized access to this type of tooling, information, and the benefits that come out of it.
Many in our audience are interested in volunteering and community engagement, and that's what our show focuses on. How can they get involved with Datakind, and what opportunities are there for both tech-savvy and non-tech savvy individuals?
Sure. So that we have a lot of opportunities. So at Datakind, we're fond of saying data scientists are just one part of the solution if you're using data to drive social impact. So for technologists and non-technologists, the first thing I would say is join our community. So if you go to Datakind's website, which is datakind.org, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can engage with our Slack. You can start to go through Datakind's playbook, which is a set of guidelines and information for how to bring data science solutions to your social impact space. In terms of events, we have events. I swear they're monthly or more than monthly. But if you're sign up for our newsletter, you'll be able to see when those are coming up. In the fall, we're holding both regular webinars on different aspects of data and social impact, as well as a number of hackathon type events. They're called data dive events, where volunteers can join from all over the world and spend a couple of hours to a full weekend working on a problem. And we need data scientists, yes, to help build out solutions, but we also need individuals who are experts in language, or who are experts in the community that we're serving, or experts in gender and frankly different challenges related to data. I say gender because gender data in the finance space is a big problem, and this access to information that's disaggregated by gender on like economic experience, and that's something we're looking to tackle in the coming months. And so we really, if you want to volunteer and roll up your sleeves, we have a space for you, regardless of what skill set you bring to the table.
So in the beginning, you said that collecting data should start with a question. For anyone who's trying to solve a solution using data, what advice would you give them? How would they start?
I would say there are two questions that we ask at Datakind to start the conversation about the type of solution you might need. So the first is really, what keeps you up at night? So as a community member, as a social impact leader, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? Because that's probably the problem worth solving, you know? And then the second thing we say is, forget about data science, AI, machine learning as terms. If you waved a magic wand, what would you change? So I asked this question recently to an organization that did direct service by fleet vehicles. So they're delivering things to communities, and said, you know, what is it if you waved a magic wand that you'd get? And they said, if we waved a magic wand, what we would know is every day what trucks needed to be filled with what things going to which communities. It's like, great, that's a piece of software. And we didn't have to talk about AI, machine learning. We just needed to talk about the outcome. And so that's what I would give as a suggestion. Focus on what is the problem you want to solve and what is the outcome you want to see. And then data and technology, they're just a tool to get you there.
Okay, so we're going to do a little activity here.
Okay.
It's called Data Dazzle.
All right.
So dazzle us with some interesting data-driven insights or statistics related to community involvement or social impact.
Wow. Okay. Pull some statistics right out. Well, I would say one thing I find pretty dazzling is Datakind's been around for going on 12 years. We have over 30,000 people worldwide who have raised their hand and said, I want to be a part of this movement, that I want to give you my time, my talent, my resources to help make data-driven solutions accessible to all in social impact. So that's one statistic, 30,000. I would say also just thinking about the impact that we could have on communities. So making insights and information visible. One of the projects that Datakind we recently worked on was around doing these community services. So sending out trucks with a resource, and then picking up information, bringing it back. By building a software solution for that organization, we saved them on average 13% of their time and money that they had been spending in transport, meaning that they were able to then use those resources to do so many other impactful things in their communities. And then I think the last thing I'll just mention is really around the change in this community and this space. The fact that 90% of data has been created in the past 2 years, and there's just this rapid exponential growth. It's a sign of the opportunity to keep evolving and keep changing our approach to maximize our positive social impact.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate all the information and data you just shared with us. It's great having you on the show. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.